Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Better Than Yesterday podcast. I'm your host, Jenna Cosentino, and I'm so happy you are here today because this episode is something that I have really struggled with. You know, the feeling where you have like a million things that you want to accomplish, you don't know where to start, you don't know what's legitimate or what's just like a fad, you know? So you either try and do everything all at once and end up completely overwhelmed, or you do nothing at all because it just feels like way too much and like you're so scattered you just get discouraged because you don't know where to start. And that is what we're going to talk about today. I know so many of you have been told to just pick one thing and focus on that, niche down, and stop spreading yourself so thin. And I think that is all we see on the internet, you know? I'm here to tell you that that advice is not for everybody. And it's definitely not for me. It's not for you. Being multi-passionate is not the problem. Being unorganized and like don't know where to start. And that is a very different thing. For example, in my life right now, I am doing a podcast. I am doing my social media. I work a full-time job. I am trying to start up my own business. Don't know what that looks like. I do marketing on the side. I am trying to build my brand that everything kind of goes under. I also have ideas of like opening an online boutique, changing over into like the fashion side of things, and just kind of like all over the place, fitness, whatever. So today we're figuring out how to hold on to all of it, how to stay organized, how to pursue every passion, every goal, every project without dropping everything and kind of like just being overwhelmed and stuck, basically. Let's get into this week's dose and then we are diving in. What I'm consuming, I have been really into podcasts listening about business. This podcast, it's the Bosniks on Dear Media. Used to be the Skinny Confidential. They just rebranded. And Paige Lorenz was just on, I think, last week. And that episode was so good. And if you're not familiar with Paige Lorenz, she is the founder of Dairy Boy. It was really interesting because she talked about how she got started in all the different areas of her life. Next is what I'm working on, and that is currently the BTY 45 day challenge. I posted an episode last week kind of explaining all of that. It's on my social media, so if you're interested in learning about that, head over to my Instagram at BTY with Jenna. There's tasks you need to complete every day, and it's basically just trying to kickstart yourself into building the life that you want. And I am on day 6, I believe, of the challenge, and it definitely is a challenge, and it's had its learning curves. Just kind of back to being really disciplined and sticking to my word and saying what and doing the things that I said I was going to do in a day, and it really helps me hold myself accountable. I haven't been perfect, and I think that's the beauty of this challenge, is just kind of trying to become better. That's my whole motto, and doing better than you were yesterday. So really just focusing on, okay, if I slipped up here, how do I prevent that from happening again? And then just quickly bouncing back and getting back on the wagon, not thinking I have to restart. As I go on this challenge, and I'm sharing my story and sharing my journey every single day on my social media. So if you're interested in that, go follow. My goal for this challenge is to kind of build the general gist of what BTY stands for and what the community I want to build is about. I have good momentum with it, and I really think that this is something that will help change people's lives. And if it's not 5 million people, if it's just one person, if it's just my life, then, you know, I'm accomplishing what I set out to do. Next, kind of going along with the BTY 45 day challenge, is pushing myself outside of my comfort zone and finally doing the things that I said I was going to do doing the things that I want to do and that have been on my list for a while, and that is Pilates. I have really been interested in doing Pilates. I was a gym girl, strength training. I really wanted to switch it up, but Pilates is low-key really freaking expensive. I discovered there's a Pilates studio here in Wilmington, and I took their first intro class. It was like $15, and I really enjoyed it. And it was a hot Pilates. And holy moly, I was not expecting that. But it's just been so good. I didn't realize how challenging it would be. Like, you think you're strong, and then you push yourself and do something different, and you're like, whoa, there's so many areas that I can improve and get stronger. So, really excited about that. And I've always wanted to be a matching workout set girly, like the biker shorts and the sports bra, and I never felt comfortable wearing that outside of my house. I wear like athletic shorts matching sets, but not like a skin tight pair of biker shorts. So that's been a little difficult, just kind of learning to be confident in my body and being confident in what I'm wearing. I have always wanted to be a matching workout set girly that goes to Pilates, and I'm making that happen. So that is what I'm loving, and that is your dose for the week. So now let's get into the episode. I want to start here because I think there's a lot of confusion around what being multi-passionate actually means. And being multi-passionate means you have a genuine interest and drive in more than one area of your life. It's not a lack of focus or inconsistency or unable to commit. It's just who you are, and that is a really beautiful thing when you understand, because you're so creative and you think of all these great ideas and great things that you want to do, and you're like, oh my God, this could be awesome, and this could turn into something huge, or this is something I'm really passionate about. It's a really beautiful thing when you understand how to work with it instead of against it. The problem isn't having multiple passions. The problem is just trying to pursue all of them at full speed at the exact same time and understanding if something is worth pursuing or is it just a phase. And that's what we are going to talk about today, is how to navigate all of that. We live in a world that tells you to pick a lane, you have to niche down, be known for one thing, and that works for some people. People need to understand that that's not the only way. And for those of us who are kind of wired differently, who have multiple things that get us excited and light us up, being forced into one box just feels uncomfortable. It doesn't feel normal. It feels like we're leaving parts of ourselves behind, always left with the what if. What if I actually pursued that? Where would that have gone now? You know what I mean? So I have always wanted to be in fashion somewhere. Always wanted to be a fashion blogger and a YouTuber and all that. So as I got older, and I really started when I was in college, getting into like my fitness health era and really kind of learning about my body and making changes and seeing that the changes are working, it kind of brought on something different. And that's kind of how Better Than Yesterday was born, was through the struggles and like what I've learned along my journey. And so that's where we landed with the podcast. We start the podcast, and then, it kind of just trickled into all these different things that could go along with the podcast. I got super overwhelmed with everything and everything to do with the podcast that I just stopped. I didn't know how to figure out how to navigate all of it and to make it all make sense and make it all correlate. I tried to run a podcast Instagram, my personal Instagram, and then I tried to do like another Instagram that would be like my social media brand. You know what I mean? I failed at that. I couldn't be consistent with doing all of that. I could have just turned my personal Instagram into my brand, but you're embarrassed to post things outside of what your normal posting was. So it wasn't until this year where I really figured out, okay, um, we need to figure this out. We need to kind of really focus on what this whole brand looks like. How can I incorporate my podcast with my social media, with fashion, and all of that? That's how we landed on BTY with Jenna, Better Than Yesterday. You know, I talk about the podcast on there, and it's kind of what I put out on the podcast. I'm kind of showing that and living that in my day-to-day life. That's kind of how I combine the two, is, you know, living what I'm preaching out on this podcast. After I figured that out and really just started focusing on building the BTY brand, which is the podcast, my health and fitness tips that I have learned, or my fashion outfits or finds that are on Amazon or hauls or anything like that. That is how you take multiple passions and put them under the same umbrella. Stop seeing your multiple interests as a liability and start seeing them as assets, seeing how you can combine them and make them work with each other and not against each other. And I think that's where you can find the most success, is how can you have them help each other, if that makes sense. The most interesting, dynamic, creative people I know, and you probably know, they have so many different things that they're working on. They aren't just niching down into one specific thing. I'm going to give you another example because I am in this Wilma leadership program. Wilma is a local magazine here in Wilmington, and they do all this women empowerment leadership programs. I'm also a Wilma Rising Star Women to Watch Award. I made the top 5, and we find out in September who wins that category. But it's just been an honor to even be nominated for that, and we had a fun photo shoot. So it's just been so fun, and it's been so cool to be a part of it. But anyways, the Wilma program, we meet every month, and it is very selective. You have to go through this whole interview process, and you sit down, you fill out an application, and then they pick people, and then you sit down in front of a panel and kind of explain what you're doing and why you want to be in this program. Once you're accepted, I'm in the class of 2026. We meet once a month for a half a day. This past month, we had like a fireside chat, and the lady is co-owner of Clean Eats, which is like a I don't want to say a restaurant, but they do healthy like meal preps basically, and it has turned into this like global brand business. And then she also launched her podcast. That is another passion of hers, and she talked about how her podcast just became an outlet and just something different than what they were doing at Clean Eats. And then randomly, she bought a farm and turned it into a wedding venue. So those are 3 completely different kind of businesses and niches that she's in, but she makes it work. And they all kind of coincide with each other in a weird way. But it was so interesting to hear how somebody so successful can make that happen. I think a lot of us know that we're multi-passionate, but we don't understand why it keeps turning into chaos, and why it like you have all these great ideas and then you take no action and they just fizzle out. It's usually one of these 3 things. And the first one is you don't have a priority system. When everything feels equally as important, nothing gets done. You wake up in the morning and you have the podcast and the content and the workout and the side project and the things you've been meaning to start, and they all feel equally urgent. So you spin, you have 15 different tabs open, and you just literally stare at your screen because, one, you don't know where to start and you're overwhelmed. And this is where I find myself stuck most of the time, really trying to figure out how to, prioritize and set different schedules for different things for each day. I will get into that, but The second one is, the shiny object syndrome. This one feels just so real because you always have this like new idea and it feels so exciting. And then you're already in the middle of another idea or thing that you were working on. But the new idea just feels so perfect um, in your head. So you just jump to the new idea because the previous idea isn't going anywhere or it doesn't feel like it's working. Things just sit unfinished and you just jump from one thing to another and just never have something that sticks, that you're consistent. That one is, I think, where people struggle with the most is figuring out what's an actual legitimate idea that is worth pursuing. And the third one, and I think this is one that gets the deepest, is just the fear of commitment. You go all in on one thing and like, what if it doesn't work out? What does this mean about you? Like, are you a failure? And you just kind of spiral into all this nonsense. And so instead of risking it, you spread yourself so thin, you keep your options open, you stay busy enough that you never have to fully commit to anything. It feels like it's productive, but it's really just self protection. If any of those three, no priority system, the shiny object syndrome, and fear of commitment, if any of those kind of relate to you, which one are you struggling with? Because knowing which one is tripping you up and messing you up is the first step to figuring out, okay, how do I fix this? How can I prevent this from happening? And how can I do better going forward? This is the practical part, and I want you to actually take notes on this because this has changed everything and is something I'm still learning, but it's the framework. The framework has three parts: seasons, systems, and like the non-negotiables. The first part is seasons. This is the most important mindset shift in the entire episode. So I want you to really kind of understand this. You don't have to do everything all at once. You can do things in seasons, quote unquote, and do them in bits and pieces. My podcast, figuring that all out, was like the first thing that I really needed to, I don't want to say be an expert at because I'm still learning this whole podcast thing, but getting that and the framework to that done so it's running constantly. And then I can start working on the content aspect of it and, the whole Instagram, TikTok that goes along with the podcast. And now it's just kind of doing better and bringing everything together and like, okay, I have the bus running, so how can I improve on everything? You know what I mean? When things come up, I'm not going to start on that immediately. I will take the time to kind of think about it. Okay, so once this is going, how can I add this into the brand? How can I add this to the umbrella of what I'm doing? And right now, I'm trying to figure out how to add the fashion aspect of my passions into the whole BTY brand. The second part is systems, and multi-passionate people, they need more structure than almost anyone because our brains are constantly generating these new ideas. And if you don't have a place to put them or you don't have a system behind it, it will take up your whole mental space. And that is all you can freaking think about. And the system that I have tried to and starting to kind of encompass is and implement is having set days of the week to work on the podcast, to work on batching content where I can, to work on editing, to work on, different fashion posts. So it's like really kind of time blocking your week and setting specific things to do on specific days of the week. So you're kind of in a routine because your to-do list could be like 5 million things long. And then you get overwhelmed and you don't know where to start to tackle. So breaking it up, you're like, okay, I don't have to work on the podcast stuff today. That can wait until Wednesday when I work on all my podcast stuff. That also goes into personal life. Like, okay, me and my boyfriend spend Thursdays together mainly on during the week, or Tuesdays and Thursdays. Okay, so what can I accomplish in the mornings on Tuesdays and Thursdays so then after work I can devote all my time to spending quality time with him, or could be with your friends or family, whatever that looks like. But really having that, and I hate to have a schedule on everything, but when you're somebody who wants to achieve so many different things and wants to do so many different things, that really just staying organized and being disciplined with your time is the way to go, and the way that you're really going to tackle everything. And yes, you have to make sacrifices here and there, but I think this is a great way to not make as many sacrifices, like if I want to go to the beach on Saturday, I'm going to do it if I got everything I wanted to get done, or if I have the tasks that are still outstanding on Saturday that I have that are scheduled for that day, can I crank them out in the morning before I go to the beach? Or, okay, if I go to the beach during the afternoon, then Saturday evening, I have to stay home to work on this stuff. So organizing your week and being disciplined with your time and just being organized with the things that you are working on. Sometimes, and when people get overwhelmed and they have all these different passions, ideas, things that they want to do, they have them all on their to-do list for that specific day, and they get overwhelmed. Again, I'm going on another tangent, but this is something I've learned from the Andy Frisella podcast. And if you don't know him, he does 75 Hard. He talks about the power list. And he does the power list. It's 5 tasks, 5 critical tasks that he has to accomplish every day to win the day. Each task doesn't have to be business related. It could be, okay, I need to hit my macros today. Second task could be, okay, I need to make sure I hit my workout today. And then another task could be, okay, I need to publish this podcast, or I need to record the podcast, and so on. Once those tasks start becoming a habit, then he takes them off the power list, but he still does them every single day. That's kind of how I try and frame my days. And sometimes, maybe getting started, your list looks 7 tasks instead of 5, but you don't want to overwhelm yourself with 30 tasks, because you're never going to get it done, especially if you work an 8 to 5 and then you have to come home and are working on a business or your passions, whatever. When you start to build this confidence that you're actually achieving things. The third part is the non-negotiables. And these are the 2-3 things that are always on, no matter what season you're in, how busy you are, how you feel that day. It's the things that you need to get done, kind of like I talked about in the power list. Everything else kind of flexes around those things that I'm working on and are in autopilot. And once those are locked in and kind of running and doing great, then maybe I can start adding a little spice back into the routine and adding some more things that I want to work on. When you know your non-negotiables, you stop waking up every single day and figuring out, okay, what do I need to do today? What matters? What's priority? You already know, and that clarity alone will just help you and change the way that you operate. The last point, and this one I really need you guys to listen to. The biggest lie that multi-passionate people believe is that they need to simplify who they are to be taken serious. They need to shrink their interests down to fit into the one box that people can understand. Wanting all of these different things make them feel unfocused, unrealistic, or they just don't stick to their word and stick to what they're going to do or what they said they're going to do. And that is not true. You need to stop believing it. You don't need to pick one thing forever and work on that thing for the rest of your life. You need to pick one thing right now that gets you excited and gets you passionate about something. Working on one thing right now can evolve into something bigger and different, or okay, I'm going to add this in here now. And it's and they're just building blocks, building on top of each other. I know the biggest struggle with people in their 20s, even 30s, is really trying to figure out what they want to do with their lives. And really, it's just figuring out what are you passionate about right now and how can you capitalize on that? What can you do to implement that into your life? And then if it's something that you're really passionate about and you feel like you have a calling for, okay, so how can I make this bigger? If you have other things on the side that come up that you want to explore, go ahead, but make sure the biggest passion and the biggest thing you want to work on is still top priority. You are allowed to want it all. You are allowed to build whatever you want to build. The podcast, the business, the fitness journey, the creative project, and everything else that gets you excited and lights you up, it's all valid and it all gets a season, just not all at once. Being multi-passionate is awesome when it's organized. And the goal isn't to do less, it's to do the right things at the right time. 4 things I want you to walk away with today is being multi-passionate is not your problem. Being unorganized about it is. Figuring out which one is tripping you up. Where is the system breaking? Is it the no priority system? Is it the shiny object syndrome or the fear of commitment? Use the framework, the season systems, and non-negotiables, keeping yourself organized and going. You are not too much. You can do whatever the heck you want to do. You don't need to pick one thing forever. And you just need to pick one thing right now that you love and that you have a calling for and just go after it. I would love to know and kind of see what everybody's passions are and what they want to start working on. If you haven't already, follow or subscribe to the show wherever you're listening. New episodes every Wednesday. If this episode resonated, send it to your multi-passionate friends and the one who's constantly doing 5 million things. Thank you so much for being here today. I will see you guys next week. Have the best week. And as always, go be better than yesterday. Final takeaway is you're not too much. You're not all over the place. You are a multi-passionate person, and that is your superpower. You just have to learn how to use it.